Welcome to this week's Top 10 list. I am solo. Francesca is off, having just given birth to her new baby. So, probably couldn't ask her to join me for a Top 10 list, particularly this Top 10 list, because I don't think she's into Marvel or Star Wars as much as I am. But around this time last year, I ranked my Top 10 favorite Marvel movies. And now we've had a lot of time for new shows to come out, both for Marvel and for Star Wars. And so I figured we've passed 10 shows. It's time to do the initial ranking. And this is something that I very much intend to return to in future years. I found this ranking very difficult to put together because while I'm sure many critics, people like haters, I would say, of Marvel and of Star Wars would say, like, all the movies are the same, all the shows are the same. No, they are really not. They are very, very unique. And I might like several of them around as much, but for very different reasons. And so how exactly you rank them becomes difficult. But I think I've landed on something that I am mostly happy with. And this is what it's going to look like. So at the end, I'll talk about the two that didn't make it. But starting off at number 10, we have What If. So What If is notable amongst these shows in that it has already had confirmed that it will have a second season. Most of these you can't say that about. I believe Falcon and the Winter Soldier, they might. Loki definitely will, and maybe Moon Knight. But What If was enjoyable. I liked some more than others. I knew, though, that it had to be fairly low on the list because I was actually slow to finish the show. I think there was something about the Thor episode that I found just not great, and so I actually delayed finishing it. Now, some of the early episodes were wonderful. I thought that the episode focused on Ant-Man and the Wasp and the plot to kill the different superheroes. That was awesome. The zombie episode was great. Like, if it was just the zombie series, it might rank much higher, and they're making a series, so perhaps we'll get to see. I liked the episode that was focused on a different Star-Lord, but some of the others just weren't quite as strong. The Captain Carter one was good, but anyway, it was just mixed enough, and the fact that I delayed ending it, that's the sort of thing that gets these shows poorly placed in the list. So number 10 for What If. Number 9 is going to go to the first of the, I would say, more traditional shows, and that is Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Watching Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I was very glad to watch each episode as they came out. Some were better than others. There were some good twists. I didn't go into that caring much about Falcon and kind of actively disliking the Winter Soldier. And I came out of it fans of both and excited to see both in other projects, which that is something. I like that it advanced the plot line for what's going to be the Thunderbolts, I guess. Julia Louis-Dreyfus and all that. But honestly, it kind of just felt like a longer, slower Marvel movie. It's, I would say, of all of these shows, it's the most traditionally Marvel one. It's what most people probably think all of these shows are like, is Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which is why I enjoyed it, but I don't know that I would ever watch it again. Some of these I can very much see myself watching again, so not highly ranked. So that's number 9 for Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Number 8 is probably going to be among my more controversial choices in that a lot of people really liked this show and rank it, I would say, much higher, maybe even at number 1. But at number 8, I have Loki. Now, I want to be clear, I enjoyed Loki. Loki was good. And it shares something with the Falcon and the Winter Soldier in that going into this show, I wasn't a fan of Loki. I honestly, kind of my eyes would glaze over when he'd be a character in the movies. I didn't find his shtick particularly interesting. But I was won over by the character in this. I liked Loki. I would say that some of the side characters I liked even better. I liked the different people working for the TWA. What is the temporal group called? And I really liked Lady Loki. I thought that she was great. I can't wait to see more of her, and I am looking forward to the second season. By the way, I like that it sets up the whole thing with Kang the Conqueror. I think that that's great. I liked that it was more of the Guardians of the Galaxy style thing. The outer space, the different planets, the over-the-top special effects. I do like that kind of Marvel thing. And it gave me all that. And there were strong episodes. I don't know, just I don't absolutely love Loki as a character. And so I did like the show. And number 8 is where it's going to land for now. At number 7, a little bit more controversy maybe for Andor being here, because of course Andor is not done. In fact, we've only gotten a little bit more than 1/3 of the first season. But I feel pretty confident putting here, knowing that it is, if it's going to move, I think it will only move up as we get more of the rest of the first season. I like Andor. I think that Diego Luna's a good actor. I think that some of the other characters they've thrown in this are good too. I want to see more Bix. I forget the guy recruiting him, but he's awesome. The dude from Chernobyl. I think that the waif from Game of Thrones, being the rebel on the ground that he's doing the mission with right now, she's a great actress too. And Andor, it nails the used universe like look and feel that you want out of Star Wars. Everything does look kind of broken down, run down, but it does it way better than a lot of the other Star Wars shows in that it really does feel like they had a higher budget, or if it's not higher, that they made smarter choices with their budget. Going with actual physical sets rather than just doing CGI really works here. I love the feel of the sets. And I want to see more about the origins of the rebellion, the actual missions they go on, how people are radicalized. Even in this first third of the season, they've been doing a good job of showing that. And so I know that we're only ever going to get 2 seasons out of this, but it's already really good. I don't know what they're going to do in terms of integrating characters from the original movies and from Rogue One and all that. We'll have to see how that goes. If I could see more of the robot from Rogue One, I'd be a fan of that, though. But anyway, coming in at number 7, liking Andor so far. Number 6 is where it starts to get more difficult, because now we're talking about very good shows that we've seen in our entirety. Number 6 is going to be Moon Knight, narrowly missing the top 5. And I want to be clear that I really liked Moon Knight. And Moon Knight is maybe arguably the best series in a few different aspects. It's one of the best mysteries, okay? The actual mystery of what's going on with him in the first few episodes is compelling. Wanting to figure out what's going on with all of his different personas and everything. I really like that. I'm now blanking on the woman's name, but the secondary character, she's a great character. I want to see more of her in these movies. Where the show suffers a little bit is that I did not particularly love the villain. Wasn't a huge fan of the villain. Some of the stuff with the gods I found a little bit frustrating, and the tone was kind of all over the place. Now, Marvel does serious to comedy very well, and they did an okay job of that in this, but I don't know, there was lacking a consistency. I often felt adrift watching the show, sort of wondering what's going on. You can almost be too mysterious, and I feel like they sometimes lapsed into that. Still very much enjoyed it. If they do a second season, which I think they are, can't wait for it. Like Moon Knight as a character. Find the last persona very interesting. But 6 is where it's going to land. And number 5, we now get to the higher half, and really enjoyed all of these shows. Number 5, and this could potentially shift if another one of these shows doesn't stick the landing, but it's going to be Hawkeye. And Hawkeye joins Loki and Falcon and the Winter Soldier in focusing on characters that I actively was not interested in and making me like them. Now, Hawkeye is not my favorite Avenger or anything now, but I thought that Jeremy Renner did a pretty good job, and I felt like they allowed the Hawkeye character to be a little bit more fun. I thought that his banter with Kate Bishop was good. That said, Hawkeye being in the top 5 is not principally because of Hawkeye. It's because of the other characters. Kate Bishop is great, and I want to see her in all the things. I want to see her in Young Avengers. I want to see her in Hawkeye Season 2. She's great. And having Yelena from Black Widow, even better. I think that Florence Pugh makes everything she's in better. The episodes where she was there were the best episodes. Her scenes with Kate Bishop, literally, they can just be talking over mac and cheese, and it's among the best scenes in any of these shows. And so you combine that with pretty good villains, interesting action scenes, some cool stuff with the arrows, the special powers of the arrows, but also it gets a boost. Maybe it's not fair, but it gets a boost because it's got the Christmas thing going on. that theme to it, I really did like. I hope that they can nail those sort of seasonal shows. I haven't watched Werewolf by Night, by the way. It's not going to appear on the list. But I like the themed stuff, and I thought they did a good job of using the Christmas theme. So very much liked it, not really because of Hawkeye, but he was fine too. And a lot of the other supporting characters, also good, the different cosplayers and all that. Echo, I'm not 100% sure of. We'll have to see how that goes. And I'm not a huge fan of Kingpin. But anyway, good characters. Hawkeye makes it number 5. Number 4 is going to be She-Hulk, the show that's currently on right now. Also with Andor, also here. We've got more of She-Hulk. I think we're only lacking one episode that's going to come out in 2 days as of when I'm filming this. And I will say that I wasn't excited for She-Hulk. I was a little bit worried during the run-up to She-Hulk that what is a procedural Marvel show gonna be like? And I don't know this character, and the trailer doesn't seem really strong. And honestly, even into the first few episodes of the show, I was enjoying it, but it is a different sort of thing. Like I said earlier, that these shows are not all the same. It is much more procedural. Like each one, it's not one, it's got a little bit of a long arc across the season, but these are independent episodes. They're very short. But honestly, I could go for multiple seasons of She-Hulk. They're just fun little storylines, and, you know, having Wayne come on and fighting some demons here and then going to a wedding in another episode. I find myself ending each episode wishing that it was longer and wishing that we had more of it, and that is a very good sign for a show. So it's giving me a very different thing than some of these other shows. Like, you might love Loki and be like, how could you possibly rank She-Hulk above Loki? Loki's this big epic story. But while I love big epic stories, I don't just love big epic stories. I like the humor of She-Hulk. I like the breaking of the fifth wall. I think Tatiana Maslany is doing a great job. The villains are a little bit weaker, but the bringing in Daredevil in this last episode, it's good stuff. I just want more of it. And so, number 4 for She-Hulk. Now, it was difficult. The top 3, really like. Number 3, though, could really be number 2. It's so difficult to choose between these two, but I'm putting number 3 as Miss Marvel. You need to understand, you want an idea of how much I like Miss Marvel? Miss Marvel is not the only one of these shows that got me to buy the comic that it's based on. I did that for Hawkeye as well. It's the only one, though, where I actually read the comic that it's based on. And I read a bunch of them. I read like 16 or 20 Miss Marvel comics and then took a trip and got sort of out of the habit. But I really like the character of Miss Marvel, and I really like what they're doing with Miss Marvel in this show. So, Iman Vellani, I believe is her name. This is her first acting job, and somehow she just crushes it as this enthusiastic young superhero. It's the most family-focused of all of these shows, and I wasn't sure how that would go, but I really like all the family dynamics. I like the history. I like learning a bit about, you know, the separation of India and Pakistan and how that applies to them. There are weak points to Miss Marvel. I would say the main thing is, again, the villain. I think is among the weaker, actually, of all of the villains. I did not find them particularly compelling. But her sort of coming to understand her powers and her place, and I looked forward to every episode of this show coming out so much, and I really hope that we get more of it. I know that we're going to get her in the Marvels, but I want more than that. I want a second season or a movie. Really like her. Some of the secondary characters are cool too, you know, the Red Knives and all that, or the Red Daggers, I think it is. But anyway, I think that she just did a great job. I would love to see her again in a Young Avengers. I mean, they've got several characters in these shows that need to show up in more. And really liked Miss Marvel and read a bunch of the comics. They're different characters in some ways. I know that a lot of people were thrown off by the change of the powers. It doesn't really bother me. I like both. But anyway, Miss Marvel's at number 3. And now we get to the 2 best ones. And this was not particularly difficult, although I do love the number 2, which is actually the first of all of these shows on the Marvel side. That is WandaVision. And I need to watch WandaVision again. I'm wondering how, like, maybe if I were to watch it again, it wouldn't stand up as much, but I went into WandaVision, as everyone did, not knowing what the, I'm not going to swear, what the hell WandaVision is going to be, but also not knowing what these Marvel shows are going to be. Are they going to be complete trash? They could have been. They could have been. They haven't been so far. They've done a great job, even better than the Star Wars shows have done, but it could have been, and I was very worried about that. And you watch the first episode of WandaVision, and at the end you're like, what the hell did I just watch? And after the second episode and the third episode, you only know a little bit more, but I found it compelling, and as they start to go through the different decades, I just found it incredibly charming. On the one hand, charming, in that Elizabeth Olsen's performance was great, and she's the last of all these characters that I didn't care about Wanda going into this show any more than I did Falcon or the Winter Soldier or Loki or Hawkeye. But I came out of it liking her even more than all the others. Wanda's now among my favorite characters. That's why I went into Multiverse of Madness, like, so hyped. She's great. Like Vision, too. I didn't even care about Vision, but I came out of the show liking both of them. Now, so the charm is on the one side, them doing the old 50s thing or the 60s or the 70s, and it's all very charming and all that. But then on the other side, you have the mystery. What is going on? What do these things mean? What's with the symbolism and all that? Who's actually behind this? What's going on? And I feel like they did that better than Moon Knight in that there were specific clues that you could question, but you never felt like you were totally spinning off into outer space. It felt like it was a little bit more constrained than that. And they stuck the landing, I think, with a really interesting villain, cool action scenes. The last episode or two become more of a traditional Marvel movie. It becomes a little bit more traditional of a show. But by that point, that's kind of what I was wanting anyway. And so I just think that it was a great little tight story. That was awesome. Could have been a movie in theory, but I don't think it would have been as strong. We needed more time with the characters. There's some interesting things coming out of it. I know that we're going to see more of the villain and maybe more of Vision, but I just loved it. And it made me incredibly hyped for the rest of the Marvel shows, which, as I'm sure you can tell from what I've been saying, I really have enjoyed. However, the number one spot, while Marvel has been stronger overall than Star Wars gets the number one spot because of The Mandalorian. I love The Mandalorian. I love me some Mandalorian, and I want so much more of The Mandalorian than we've had. It's just these tight little stories that I know some people say it feels like a video game. It's like him going on side quests or whatever. But honestly, like, I like the idea of Westerns. I love the idea of space Westerns. I like Firefly. The idea of him just going to this planet and doing a thing and interacting with interesting characters, seeing cool monsters, that's fun. And that would probably be enough by itself to get this series placed in the top 10. But The Mandalorian himself is very interesting. Some of the cultural stuff is okay. I'm not as into that. I'm interested in how he's developing. But then on top of it, you have cheat mode, which is Grogu. I'm sorry. I know that I'm like, I'm like a Facebook mom in love with the minions, I suppose. But when I see Grogu, I lose it to this day. And I love him. And he's in most episodes. And so how can you not love the show? It's got the adventure. It's got a great actor playing the main role. It's got some interesting intersections with expanded universe Star Wars stuff with the Mandalorians and everything and the Darksaber, and we're going to be seeing more of that, I think. And they literally brought in, a Katie Sackhoff from Battlestar Galactica. Like, how great is that? I love a lot of the side characters. I forget the sheriff guy, but he was good. The mechanic woman. Like, there's just a lot of great side characters and really interesting little episodes. You get to see little vignettes of the Star Wars universe, and along the way, you also get Baby Yoda. And so, I love it. The episodes with him were the best part of the Book of Boba Fett, so I guess the episodes that are all about him, on a show all about him, has to be my number one. Now, that said, that does leave two series that did not make the top 10. That is the Book of Boba Fett and Obi-Wan Kenobi. And so, the hit rate for the Star Wars series so far has been 50% for me, really, in terms of liking it. The Book of Boba Fett, I wanted to like. And I did watch every episode, but I did not love every episode. It ended okay. The final battle on Tatooine, I thought was okay. It was okay. And I thought that the episodes with The Mandalorian were good. And they look, if I could say anything good about just Mandalorian to the side, the episode of him on the Vision quest with the Tusken Raiders, that stuff was interesting. The stuff with him being the Ronin or whatever he was supposed to be for Tatooine was just not good. It wasn't believable. I don't love the Power Rangers they threw in there. None of that stuff really made any sense to me. I like the stuff with the Tusken Raiders. That's good. Make that into a movie or something. But just the series had a lot of problems. Obi-Wan Kenobi, I liked overall more. And similar to Book of Boba Fett, it starts off strong, the middle is weak, the end is good on Obi-Wan Kenobi. I liked the villain, thought she was good, and I thought the last battle with Darth Vader is very good. There's some good action scenes in it, honestly. The episode in that ocean universe, or the ocean world with the base, that was interesting. There was some good stuff, and I think that Obi-Wan Kenobi was done well. I think Ewan McGregor did a good job there. But there was just something about the look of it. They didn't spend the money in the right places. It looked much more artificial than either Andor or The Mandalorian, or even Book of Boba Fett. It was the worst looking. In multiple episodes, it was the cheapest looking of those series. When he has his first run-in with Darth Vader on that, desert planet or whatever, there's, mines, it just looks terrible. I don't understand why. It's the worst looking scene of any of these shows, probably. And so I bumped up against Obi-Wan Kenobi pretty hard in a few different places. If they do future seasons, maybe they could be good. I don't think that they're going to. I would like to see Ewan McGregor in more of this stuff, but used in a better way. Throw him into Andor a little bit, maybe, but didn't love Obi-Wan Kenobi. But in any event, that is the status of these series, my top 10 right now. As I rewatch shows, which I don't really have much time to, unfortunately, because there's so much good stuff coming out, these could change. She-Hulk and Andor still have more episodes to come, and I haven't yet watched Werewolf by Night, so I don't know where that... It's different. It's, a one-time thing. We'll see how that changes over time. There are some upcoming series I'm really excited for, like Ironheart, and so we'll see. I'm going to check in again next year and see how these things have changed and all that. But anyway, I hope that you enjoyed that. I'd love to see how your list differs from mine. You can post that in the comments below. And I will be doing solo top 10 lists while Francesca is gone. So if you have ideas for maybe something that's a little bit more me than her, post that down below and I'll get that to you. Thank you for supporting the show and the network and making this extra content possible. I'll see you next time. For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.